let's just stick on Saturday, and then we'll get to Sunday. How about that?
Sure.
Because there's not that much for me to break down from the game other than what the injury impact means for the next round, similar to what we're talking about for Denver.
Can't get over that, man.
The Saturday night game happens, and we're like, all right, well, that first one was pretty good. Oh, my God. The Broncos are in the AFC title. Wait, Bo's out? You're kind of head spinning, and then you turn on the NFC title game, which I'm sure they were livid because that game cut into their big pregame. So how many people were watching the Fox pregame over overtime of the game previous?
You view that as the NFC title game?
Well, yeah, kind of. No, did I accidentally say NFC title game?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, I'm a little rattled.
Yeah.
A homeless guy tried to just kill me. Maybe not. Maybe he's here to clean the building. So
would have killed Swag first, or at least given you time to grab a chair.
Give me the benefit of the doubt here.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. You're going into the game. Fox is probably pissed, right? Their audience is getting cut into in the pregame. Opening. I mean, I'll be curious your thoughts because you're a Niner fan. It felt very similar to the Oregon-Indiana game for me, where there was a certain path that your team had to follow in order to win. Mm-hmm. And then on the first play of the game, they deviated from that path and let the thing happen that they couldn't let happen. And just like that, you're in a hole. And all of a sudden, you're like, uh-oh, that didn't go very well. And then it continued because then you get the fourth down stop and the Tonjes fumble, and you're just like, I just turned the game on, and this game is essentially over at this point. What was the reaction to the Niners getting killed by the Seahawks?
So I turn the game on, I see the Bo update, and then I see the vibe in Seattle, and I went, hey, they didn't sell their tickets this time. The first game they finally all show up as 12s is the divisional round. Good to see. All right. And I'm not kidding. When the Niners kicked the ball off and I saw Shaheed go to get it, I went, why would you kick to him? It came out of my mouth. I'm sitting there, I go, why would you kick to him?
Remember that Rams game?
And then, boom. And I went, it's going to be Denver-Seattle Super Bowl vibes, huh?
Right out of the gate, huh?
And look, the Niners hung around for a minute. It wasn't like it was instantly 41-0.
They needed a lot of things to go right just to hang in that game, and when you don't have a fourth down conversion and a fumble on your next two drives.
You didn't feel good, and you certainly probably had a bad vibe if you weren't rooting for the Seahawks. On the other side of it, I mean, it literally registered an earthquake. It was a Beastquake 2.0. Mm-hmm. That was so exciting to the fan base that it registered, and so hard to see the game going a different direction, even though it's only the first play of the game. But you didn't feel good. No. And then the game rolls on. And I'll tell you, just totally truthful, I hung with the game until it was 41-6. When I think it was Kenneth Walker scored the last touchdown.
It's your last chance to watch your team this year. Might as well, dude. Where you can turn it off and watch something else?
Seattle deserves a lot of conversation today.
Yeah.
I've certainly had to eat my fair share of crow on the Seahawks. But I felt weirdly, despite getting the ass whooped, I felt a lot of pride for my team to even be in the spot.
You won 13 games being decimated by injuries.
That was a bottom 8 roster health-wise, and they finished in the top 8 of the league. And I'm somebody that I like a perspective every once in a while. I want to win the Super Bowl, like every other fan base. But some years it's not your year. It wasn't our year, and they still got the divisional round. Tip of the cap. Kudos to the Seahawks.
Find a new DC.
For the 4th straight season. New DC, can't wait. So excited.
You got to go find another one.
But they need to retool the roster a little bit. They have an obvious receiver problem. Ricky Pearsall's not a 1. He can't stay healthy. He had 2 targets and no catches. That's a problem. Kittle's going to be out next year. They have a lot of areas of concern, but they're really well coached. And to get to the division round's a great season. The rest is all Seahawk-based. Seahawks and what they were and what they are, and do they look like the Legion of Boom wagon that's going to win the Super Bowl to people, or is there, they got the worst possible matchup between the two teams from the other divisional game coming this weekend? There's a whole other conversation of the Seahawks. I don't think the Niners deserve much time other than they got further than we thought. Hell of a run.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the real contenders of the NFC.
I feel like both things can be simultaneously true. On the one hand, the Niners deserve credit and respect for making it as far as they did, because with the injuries that piled up, there's just not many situations where you see a team overcome that. And even in the game, too. It hasn't just been from the regular season. You lose Kittle to an Achilles injury in the wild card round, so now your next best available weapon is out. And then what happens in the first half of the game? Christian McCaffrey goes down with a shoulder injury or a stinger or whatever he had and missed. I think he came back and maybe had a carry at some point in the second half.
But Tonjes ended up getting hurt in that game,
and then Tonjes got hurt, too. Yeah. And so you're just, you didn't have Ayuk all season. You got nobody left at that point. And so you're just playing with both hands tied behind your back, and there's not much you could do. And so I wasn't necessarily surprised with the outcome of the game. I think we all said it last week, there's a world that exists that the 49ers win this game, but there's like one world that exists, and that is they needed everything to go right. They needed big explosive plays to go their way. They needed Seattle to be the team that, didn't convert fourth downs, turn the football over.
They needed to be the opening kickoff.
Yes, and they needed Seattle to have the fourth down stop and then a fumble that led to another touchdown. That was the world that San Francisco needed, and all of the things went the opposite direction of that. And so on the one hand, I'm not going to come in and kill San Francisco for getting killed in the game because they shouldn't even have been there in the first place. Let's be honest here.
Well, you said a good thing. How does Philly feel?
Dude, if you're an Eagle fan watching that game, how do you feel?
Oh, terrible.
It's similar to like a Texas Tech fan who sees Oregon win 26-0, and the next week they're down by 50, and you're like, wait a minute, we couldn't even score against these guys? They just gave up 50 to Indiana.
Right.
It shows you how far away you are. So Eagles fans probably had the worst weekend of anybody. Niners shouldn't have been there in the first place. You're playing with house money to a certain extent. And on the other side of it, you get Seattle, who, to their credit, did exactly what they're supposed to do to a banged-up team. I don't know if there's been a more, and maybe there's another one that I'm not remembering off the top of my head. What's the more impactful trade deadline move than Shaheed? And what he's meant, because without his punt return against the Rams, they don't win that game. That starts the entire comeback.
He's the only player in the NFL this year to have a punt and a kickoff return for a touchdown.
He also had he had massive plays on offense. He had a big sweep or reverse in that Rams game as well. He was big on Sunday or Saturday night, I should say.
Their Atlanta game, they had no juice.
Nothing.
6-6 at the half. He kicked off the second half with an opening touchdown.
Oh, my God. And then the ball rolled downhill, and they end up winning the game in a landslide. And so, again, maybe there's a name that I'm not remembering, but when I think of what that meant to beat the Rams that led to them winning the division and getting the 1 seed, which now leads to them hosting the Rams in the NFC Championship game, that impactful move is massive.
But we noted it in the moment of I loved that move. I think when the trade deadline happened, I can't recall top of my head. I'm pretty sure I said that was my favorite move. I thought that was a great move. If you watched any Saints football ever,
which maybe we didn't a lot of this year because they ironically were terrible early in the year and then better without him.
Yeah, but when you talk about the Saints, it's Kamara, it's Olave, and it was Shaheed. That was kind of all they've had. Yeah. And Cam Jordan a little bit on defense, but that was all there. And you went and got him, and you gave up a fourth and a fifth,
dude. Steal of the century for John
Great
Schneider.
Deal. If you win a Super Bowl out of this, who cares about a fourth and a fifth?
But just even getting to one, like getting to an NFC title game is massive for this. For Schneider to have another team to get there and now be 1 win away from a Super Bowl, to have a head coach early in his career getting to one of these pinnacles, and they did it. It would kind of remind me of a Jimmy Garoppolo special, right? Like Darnold didn't do much; he didn't have to do much.
They ran the football and had stellar defense.
They threw it 33 times. They ran it 17, and they had a kickoff return for a touchdown. Like that's kind of all you needed out of that game. Now, the other side of it is that in the outcome of it, you've now lost your running back, Charbonnet, who they were hopeful after the game. They said, we're hoping it's just a bruise here. Maybe he'll be okay. We'll go for imaging, and then you get the imaging.
Torn ACL.
And it's an ACL, and he's out for the rest of the year. And so it's a running back room that has been a bit of a two-head monster. Kenneth Walker obviously had a bigger night on Saturday, 3 touchdowns, 116 yards. He was massive in that game. You can kind of split hairs at times who you think the better back is. So you still got at least Walker going for you, but the depth at that position is going to be hurt. But Seattle, man, a dominant win, and now, again, 1 win away from continuing their streak of being the number one. Every time they get the number 1 seed, they make it all the way to the Super Bowl.
Well, and, to give flowers to people, too, like Mike McDonald deserves a lot of credit. Sam Darnold didn't need to win the game, but, hey, he won a big game. He got that big game win for Sam Darnold.
I'm not quite there. I mean, look, he won the game. This is one of those dumb narratives that we have of, like, he didn't have to do anything in that game, and they would have won the game. This weekend will be the big game.
Yeah.
My point was...
Because they're not going to beat the Rams by 35.
John Schneider. We talked about him going into the season, and I said a couple times, and Seahawks fans were chiming in, too, of like, all right, dude, like you've swung and missed on some few draft picks. Your offensive line has been a big issue. The Darnold-Geno swap, people were debating that. It was a big year for him. And he makes the in-season trade with Shaheed. The underrated move was getting DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't put a lot of stock into that one. That's turned out to be sensational.
He took a steaming dump on the Cowboys, too. Remember when he got traded and said, we're never going to play for a Super Bowl, and Cowboy fan got all butthurt, and it's like,
yeah.
Who was right?
And now you look at that defense, and I know Trent Williams was not willing to give it because Trent Williams loves the rivalry, so he's not going to compliment them. He doesn't think their defense is as stellar as people think it is. But right now, they're sitting in a world where they look the part. They certainly have a lot going for them in that department. And so
this weekend's going to be a fascinating case study for me because it's one thing to do it against a Niner team who has no weapons available by midway through the second quarter. It's another thing to do it against a Rams team who, by the way, the last time they were there, they put up big points and yards against you.
I think it's the first time since 2014 we've had the number 1 offense and the number 1 defense against each other in a conference championship game. So it's been a minute since this has played out this way. The other part of this, and we can carry this over because I know we'll talk about the other game, I think you have to ask out loud, and I don't think it's ridiculous to ask, do the Seahawks have the coach advantage? Because I think McVay's had a few moments this season. He's not a good coach, but you're like, what are you doing? And I thought there were some moments on Sunday where you're kind of like, huh? And I certainly was asking that out loud to myself watching that game of, you got to wonder now, McDonald seems to know exactly what his defense is going to be. And Kubiak right now, like if they're going to run the football, Darnold doesn't need to go, quote, unquote, win the game. He can throw some passes, complete a couple to JSN, call it good, hand the ball off, defense wins the game.
Yeah, don't turn the football over, go manage it, and find a way to win. Jimmy Garoppolo's been to a Super Bowl before.
And so I think you need to ask going in this week to the matchup, like, is the coach advantage in Seattle's favor going into that game?